Welcome back to DreamHack Winter 2018. My name is Cora Georgiou, and joining me to bring you the action for round number 3 of the Swiss is Derek Fresh Dude Brown. Looking pretty fresh today, Derek. How you feeling?
Fresh.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you for playing. You can collect your prize on the way out.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. We have a really nice match coming up. It's going to be Galen taking on Casie. I know we've got a lot of fans of both of those players, I'm sure, out in the audience. Galen with a top 4 finish at DreamHack Montreal and then a top 8 finish at DreamHack Atlanta, losing to Sintalal, who eventually finished 2nd in the event. And then Casie, I mean, there's so much we can say about Casie. He's had incredible results. Did he finish 2nd at the recent HCT Orange County event,
Yep.
I believe? Finished 2nd there, which I believe then Fino ended up winning. Tons of other top 16, top 8 performances. Extensive DreamHack histories for both of these players. Should be a good one.
Yeah, Casie has had one of the least flashy but most impressive years I think anyone's ever had in Hearthstone, with no tour stop victories to his name so far, but plenty of top 16s and top 8s. I think the most top 16ingest player in the whole tour stop system, and that is the mark of a truly great Hearthstone player, in my opinion, is that consistency across all metas, which Casie has shown he absolutely has.
Galen is in a really rather similar situation. A lot of top 16, top 8 performances, the top 4 at Montreal. A player who's been on the come up for quite a while now and is good friends with a lot of the best players in the game, Muzzy, Just Say, and Amnesiac. He plays for Gamers Origin, of course, so he's got friends on that team as well, but hasn't had anything particularly flashy, hasn't won a tour stop or made it to a championship event, but still has quietly become regarded as one of the best Hearthstone players in the scene right now. So for both of these guys, very similar situations. Very different lineups, however. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bans and see what they have brought to the table here. From Galen, he has a Death Rattle Hunter, an Odd Paladin, a Malagos Druid, and an Odd Rogue. And his Death Rattle Hunter has been banned away. Casie has Mali Druid, Death Rattle Hunter, Shudderwock Shaman, which has been banned, and an Even Warlock. So not a whole lot of overlap here. The Hunters and the Mali Druids, but then Casie's gone for a much more anti-control strategy with Shudder Shaman. Galen much more aggressive with the Odd Paladin and the Odd Rogue.
It's an interesting ban as well there from Galen, because looking at what he wants to ban away from Casie, he kind of really wants to ban the Even Warlock because he's obviously got the Odd Paladin, which is a pretty miserable matchup. He wants to get rid of the Druid because Odd Paladin and Odd Rogue are both pretty miserable matchups. But I guess he's thinking Shudderwock Shaman is just good enough against the majority of his decks, which I do find as quite a surprising ban, because Malagos Druid up against Shudderwock Shaman is a matchup that I think is very good. Odd Rogue isn't that bad. I would be interested to hear his reasoning behind this ban, because I was expecting the Druid ban.
Yeah, the only way I can think of it is really as a respect ban. Odd Paladin against Shudderwock Shaman's quite good. Mali Druid, quite good. The Death Rattle Hunter, fantastic against Shudderwock Shaman. So I'm expecting that Galen expected his Hunter to be banned away, because the Hunter is just good enough against the other decks that Casie has brought, that even if his Shudderwock Shaman were removed, the Hunter's still a big threat. And then as a result of that, maybe Galen feels a little bit less comfortable against the Shaman, because I say that's probably going to be his best matchup there. But even still, aggressive decks against Shudderwock Shaman, seeing as every Shudderwock is running a Keleseth package instead of a Pyromancer package, usually can just get there. So interesting to see that ban choice, and we'll see if it pays off for Galen. But what do you all think at home? Do you think it's going to be #Galen or #Casie who take this win? Make sure you're following the channel and in the chat. Get your hashtags, get your votes in, and we'll see what you think about this one. Derek, what do you think about this one? Galen and Casie, very similar situations, not very similar players. And I think that reflects in their lineups here.
It does indeed. Galen with, going with what he knows, what's tried and tested for him. And both of these players are actually, because Galen, I believe he said, is bringing the same lineup that he brought to Atlanta just a couple weeks ago with the triple Muckler lineup, which I'm a fan of. I think it's a fun way to go about it, even if it's not the most tried and tested strategy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
A fair way of putting it. But this for me is a very personal match. I'm a good friend of both of these players. And even though Casie does just randomly message me on Hearthstone, "You suck," every so often, completely out of the blue.
Gotta keep you humble.
I'm going to give it to Casie on this one. He's just too good. You can't bet against Casie, I think.
Yeah, good friends will keep you from getting a big head. It's really nice of him. Very generous person, clearly. Now, Casey's a great guy. I'm going to have to play devil's advocate here. I'll go with Galen. I think he's been on a really hot streak recently. He had 2 top 8 or better finishes in a row at DreamHack events. Seems like he's really enjoying this meta. He's playing quite well in it. And he was finally able to overcome Just Sayin, actually, at DreamHack Atlanta, which was a big personal victory for him. So to see him be able to take a win here and perform well in another DreamHack event, maybe even win the event, would be really, really cool. So I'll give it to Galen. You will say Casie is going to take this one, but what did you at home decide? Do you think it will be Galen or will it be Casie? I'm expecting this one to be close, and it is, with Casie slightly edging it out. That makes sense. We're in Europe. Casie is a European player. Galen from North America, though he is on Gamers Origin, which tends to lean more of a European team. But there's just a lot of Casie fans out there. What more can you say?
He's a good player and a nice man, as much as he may try to hide it. And I think even putting personalities aside, Casie, I just like the way his lineup shapes up against Galen. I feel like aggro is always a decent strategy to go for, especially in Last Hero Standing, just going a lot more aggressive. But Casie just has some very strong anti-aggro decks.
Yeah, absolutely. He's such a dry personality, but like, just so stinking savage all the time. And it's so funny to be around, whereas Galen just, I sat next to him at WESG. He was competing there as well. And you would have thought that he was the one who was casting the match. Really? Because he just doesn't stop talking Hearthstone. Like, he's so invested and so committed to Hearthstone that I think that's a lot of the reason why he's been performing so well lately. But our first matchup is going to be the Odd Paladin up against the Even Warlock. This one is quite good for the Even Warlock. They have Defile and Hellfire to get through the early board presence from the Paladin. And then at that point, they're usually down low enough that they can make a big board swing with cards like Hooked Reaver or Giants and Twilight Drakes plus Sun Fury Protectors. Yeah,
I definitely prefer the Even Warlock on this side. I am finding more and more I'm having to be very cautious about what I say is favored against Odd Paladin, because for a long while in the middle of this meta, it was kind of looked down upon. It wasn't seen as particularly powerful, mainly when Quest Rogue was big, because Odd Paladin wasn't that good against Quest Rogue, especially with double Fan of Knives. But it's just having a bit of a resurgence, a bit of a renaissance as a deck by playing it super slowly, very value-oriented instead of more aggressively. You can find a lot of players are having a lot of success extending it into the super late game.
They really want to try and find as much leverage as they possibly can from the Vine Cleavers in particular, because those against control decks are going to be what gives you the most value, what gets you the farthest. And then you got to be careful with your level ups, of course. Make sure you time those well because of cards like that, which was just drawn by Casie. The Hellfire it's just such an easy removal tool, which is why oftentimes you're seeing the Paladin decks that have the most success against Even Warlock be the ones who get the 25% Purifier's Maul off of unidentified Maul. And that only happens 25% of the time.
I often find that those players win at games of Hearthstone.
Those players are quite good.
It's funny how that turns out, as Galen here kind of has the best of both worlds for the moment, where he can both play very aggressively, which is what you want to do to put the pressure on the Even Warlock, but he can also take it in a much more value-oriented way, because that Divine Favor is very possibly going to draw him 6, 7, 8 cards this game.
Yeah, it will. And at that point, what the Paladin can do is attempt to run the Warlock out of removal. Play around Defile and Hellfire after you've already seen Defile and Hellfire. And to get to that point, throw stuff onto the board. You got a lot of stuff.
Respectable play here for Galen. I was looking at going for Blessing of Might Hero Power, because then if your board is cleared, next turn you can go double 0-mana Corridor Creeper into Divine Favor. Yeah. But I think this way it allows him to make a stronger play with 5 mana on the following turn, which is very good. You want to be able to use that Divine Favor as early as you possibly can so that your following plays are more powerful.
By not hero powering last turn, Galen was playing. He played around Defile, he got Hellfire, nothing matters, was on the board. We got a really wonderful bro high five over the monitors.
And this is the thing, you say Casie is very dry. He's just a big troll, really. Like, he just wants to have a laugh with Hearthstone. He's so good at it, it just makes sense to him. He's the quickest player in Hearthstone, so why not have a laugh with it?
By far. He just... he has experience playing fast, so 99% of the time, he knows what he's doing and it's the right play. And when he needs to think, he will take it a little bit slower, but he's just not messing around, you know? I respect that. You got your Zalays of the world who, you know, do pull-ups during their turns, really got to think it out, except when they hit themselves in the head. And then you got your Casies.
So I believe just 2 damage off lethal already here for Gallon with his very gorgeous play around Defile. There was no chance for Casie to go for that on that turn, just had to instead set up for the big taunt in the way, hoping that Gallon won't be able to draw through to a lethal on this turn, and still unable to quite get there. So Gallon setting up for the Vine Cleaver lethal on the following turn, and still managing to play around pretty much every form of removal.
Yeah, the Boisterous Bard does a nice job of playing around Defile if there are recruits on the board, but here it helps bolster the board a little bit more against a Hellfire. The only draw there for lethal would have been a Blessed Maul. So Gallon, knowing that that Divine Favor was very likely not going to be enough to do the job, but maybe a little bit extra for the coming turns.
So Spellbreaker on the... Oh no, because the Vine Cleaver was there. I'm wondering if Casie can survive from his point of view
It
by
would need
setting
to
up a Defile.
involve the Hooked Reaver or the Spellstone in some way.
Yeah, but there's just no 1 health minions. This is what Gallon has done so brilliantly. By playing the Divine Favor a turn earlier than I was considering he would usually be playing it, it meant he could go for an early King Muckler, which is now going to be delivering 15 damage over the course of this game.
It's just good.
It's just a good card.
Didn't even need to get reprinted. The first one was good enough. It's in 3 of the 4 decks that Gallon brought. It was in all 4 of Purple's decks at DreamHack Atlanta, but the first time he Katharina'd that bad boy out, realized it probably wasn't a good idea. So from Casey's perspective, it's just going to have to be a clear and hope that Gallon does not have the Vine Cleaver to deliver the lethal damage.
This is the only option available. But Gallon, after what I think was a pretty beautifully played game there, he was very self-critical, I saw, of his Odd Paladin play in particular after Atlanta, and it feels like he's brought it back in a pretty major way here with what was a really good example of how you play this matchup, which is somehow playing around Defile, which is an incredible feat in this matchup.
It's very hard to do, and especially because with Odd Paladin, you want to capitalize on the way that you build your deck. The whole point of the deck is to leverage that hero power.
Yes.
And usually in matchups, that means pressing that button every turn that you possibly can. I don't think Gallon hero powered a single time that game.
I think it was turn 2 was his only hero.
Yeah, maybe that was the only...
Maybe didn't even do it then.
Ah, well, because the Hellfire turn, there was no dudes on the board.
Yeah.
So a really strange way to play the deck, but also incredibly aggressive at the same time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how Paladin often can go very late. They've got double Vine Cleaver. They time the level ups correctly, and they have a lot of value with the deck as well. But Gallon said, nope, I'm jamming a 3-mana 5/5 on turn 4, and you're going to be dead by turn 6. And that's just what happened here. So there are certain instances where the Warlock simply cannot keep up, even though it is one of the most well-positioned decks in the meta right now to deal with this Paladin.
And now with Casie going for the good old Malygos Druid to try and counteract that. Gallon has 1 card in particular, which is pretty good against Druid in his deck. It's King Muckler once again. It's just a good card.
It's just good. You can leverage the fact that the Druid has to draw a lot of cards, put some bananas in their hand, maybe burn a key piece of a combo, or you can just jam a 5/5, force them to naturalize it, and if they don't have naturalize, you hit them in the face.
But with no Muckler available, it's clearly all in on Gallon on the level up plan. That's how he's winning this game, hoping that 1 copy of Spreading Plague won't be enough for Casie to fight back.
Through a double level up, there's a great chance that it is not going to be enough, especially since the first couple turns for Casie are really, really thin. He held on to the Plague and the Arcane Tyrant, obviously, because they go so beautifully together, but that does then heavily rely on drawing into swipes, drawing into wild growths, getting something to fill out the curve and help you out a little bit, because after Spreading Plague, you need something to do.
And Gallon now can say to Casie, not only do you have Plague, you need it to win the game. He's saying here, do you have Swipe? Because if not, you are going to be taking 16 damage directly to the face.
And he does not have Swipe. The options this turn, Branching Paths for armor or card draw, Floop as a 3/4, or Moonfire and Hero Power to clean up 2 dudes, but a board of 3 dudes for a level up is still not half bad.
Yeah, Gallon here clearly has the indication that his opponent doesn't have swipe, and with the pickup of the Void Ripper as well, this hand starts to get very interesting indeed for Gallon.
Well, Casie's still one turn off of Spreading Plague. Gallon can just slam that second level up next turn, and we can see Casie has nothing that he can do to counteract this board this turn, meaning that level up next turn is going to be 16 additional damage coming to face. Casie is barely alive right now.
Really nice play from Gallon. I think the pickup of Void Ripper may have incentivized some players to go for deal with Spreading Plague with the Void Ripper, then go for double level up afterwards. But I think this slightly more aggressive line leads to a victory more often, because if there is a Spreading Plague from their opponent, then you just
5/5s just go through
kill them with 5/5s.
Then you have 5/4s, and Casie mostly of the time doesn't have second Spreading Plague. We can see first Spreading Plague here is not going to be anywhere near enough.
And I think that's just going to be lethal now. Or is it one off?
I believe it's one off with the Void Ripper and the... Is that Blessed Maul or Sacred Maul?
That is Taunt Maul.
Yeah. Bad Maul. Okay. Yeah,
one
2 off.
damage off. Okay.
Yeah, 2 off, because the Maul's the only thing that goes face here.
Oh, you can attack with
Oh, no,
Maul,
it was
right?
1 off, because the 3-1. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, one of the dudes just goes face. What are we talking about? That's lethal. Never mind. We're dumb.
Very nicely done there by Gallon. I think the only real decision for him there in that game was whether to go for coin level up or go for a Void Ripper to deal with the Spreading Plague. And he made the very, very nice decision to not get too greedy with his level up. Coin level up into level up was more than enough. And it means now that after what has been one of the quickest series I think I've ever cast, the only deck left for Casie is an absolutely miserable matchup in Death Rattle Hunter versus the Odd Paladin.
So when I've seen Death Rattle Hunter win this matchup, it has relied heavily on Spider Bomb and Houndmaster Shaw. Candle Shot, of course, is going to be the best tool in the early game, but Devilsaur Egg just doesn't seem to get there. Even the best hands of like Egg into Terror Scale Play Dead seem a little bit slow sometimes, and it's because at that point Gallon would already be able to level up.
You do need a lot of cards to come together in just the right way. Like if Casie here had a Candle Shot, I would say it's very possibly a winning hand.
The Mossy Horror is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Purifier's Maul pickup for Gallon, however,
he finally got
phenomenal.
the good one.
Yeah, it took a couple of Sacred Mauls, but he got there.
Once again, going real aggressive here. Doesn't want to go wide on the board, play into mind control tech, anything like that. And he's just going to start killing Casie.
But now you got to go wide, try and mitigate the Spider Bomb, and Gallon is going to take that 25% there, sacrificing 4 damage to the face, but potentially getting more damage out of that Glowtron later on.
Very nice pickup indeed for Casie, just giving him some chance to fight back against this board, against what would otherwise have been just an unbeatable state.
And this is still looking really, really bad here. Wow.
This is looking so good for Gallon. Even the Mossy Horror now just won't be enough because the good old Fungal Mancer will be able to pull it out.
He built his own King Mukla with Divine Shield, and Fungal Mancer's coming down next turn. Casie, the Zilliax might help, but Mossy Horror's not hitting anything at this point.
The Taunt in the way as well. There's just nothing he can do to fight back against this. He has to just pray that Zilliax will be enough to pull things back. And with now 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, it's so almost lethal already for Gallon.
You know, I will say, I hit Legend with Odd Paladin this season. It felt good. It didn't feel this good.
Yeah.
This feels really good.
Yeah.
For Gallon, because he's about to 3-0 Casie in one of the fastest stats I think I've ever seen.
I mean, how do you cast something like this? Like Casie, one of the absolute best players in the world, in my opinion.
Well, hey, we still managed to miss lethal, so it's a set.
Yeah, that's how you cast it, I guess. Yeah.
Badly. Jeez. He's playing Tank Master too? Jeez. The retro 3 slots are abundant for Gallon.
And it's not quite game yet. He can... Right, doesn't even have a 33% with being 1 damage off lethal then, so I guess you take it a little bit slower.
To 33%, Tank Master the Zilliax, play the Raid Leader, hit face.
Oh yeah, that's
lethal.
True.
Reporting for duty.
You see, I only 33% missed lethal there, so it's fine.
It's the same amount that Gallon technically missed lethal.
Very smart.
It's not worth the risk there. He is going to win this game next turn. And you can see what I'm talking about. The Devilsaur Egg, a little bit slow in this matchup. You don't have the time to just play an egg onto the board because Gallon will then play 2 dudes and a Blessing of Might, and then he'll Fungal Mancer, and things get very messy very quickly. And unfortunately, a Devilsaur usually can't do the job well enough at that point. So Casie with a very, very fast defeat. Gallon, a 3-0 record in his 3rd consecutive DreamHack that he's performing very, very well in. Like I said before, top 8 DreamHack Montreal, or top 8 at DreamHack Atlanta, top 4 at DreamHack Montreal. And there you can see Tobias, head admin, getting some well-deserved screen time. Does a lot of good work.
I thought that was Casie.
Ah, Swedish Casie, right. Yes. Now, Casie was out of there. He's like, I got to go play some Beat Saber or something, because that was rough. There was nothing he could do, quite literally. He had the Defile and the Hellfire. Couldn't do anything about the Paladin. He had the Spreading Plague, didn't matter, wasn't enough. He had Devilsaur Egg plus Terrascale Stalker, Candle Shot, Mossy Horror, Zilliax, and wasn't even close. What's he supposed to do?
Casey's been around the block a few times, though, in Hearthstone. He knows that sometimes that just happens. You got to take it with good spirit, as he clearly did, giving Gallon a good big handshake there. But for Gallon, he did not give, in my opinion, Casie any outs to pull those games back. He was just playing, like, very, very well, I think. Very aggressive styles of play, not value, as I was talking about, against those more controlling decks, just trying to close things out as quick as possible and working out very nicely for him.
I think that first game in particular, though it was very fast, very well played by Gallon. So if you want to go back and look at a game in that series, it would have to be that one for me. The Mukla very aggressively on turn 4, playing around the Defile as well as Gallon did. Really impressive stuff. Gallon's going to get a 3-0 victory there over Casie. And we're going to take a very short break to set up for our second set. We are not done by any means with round number 3 of the Swiss just yet, so don't go anywhere. More matches coming right up.